Recently I've been going back at the Didgeridoo Mouthpiece idea, and I've got a few updates and techniques and ideas. So this is one of the early ones that I made. The size of this pipe is 1 1/4 inch diameter, and that's a good size for cutting with one of these PVC cutters. It's it would probably work pretty good. You get a different kind of a tone than you would with a wider piece. This is a 2-inch pipe. And also what I did was I tried experimenting with just making a 1-foot section that would be the mouthpiece, that you could then use a coupler like this one here, put that on it, and then you could have a bellows that would go be attached to it. So that way you could have a couple of bellows, and then you'd have, or bellows, bell, I think the term is bell. But anyway, the longer piece, you could have just a handful of those, and then you could have many of these, one for everybody, and you'd be able to have like a classroom set of them, or a camp set of them. And if somebody wanted to change the tone of their didgeridoo, they could just put on a different end piece and use their mouthpiece. That way people's mouthpieces don't get changed around. And so there's that one. So the way that I'm doing it is I'm taking this. So this is another 1-inch piece that I cut. I actually did cut it with this, but it was kind of difficult. I had to put the cutter on it like that and then turn it, and it took a lot longer than I would have expected, but it did work. And then you take it and you dip it into the wax, and then you dip it into the cold. You dip it into the wax and let it sit a little bit, dip it into the cold, and it's kind of the same process that you'd use for dipping candles. And actually this hot pot that I'm using now is from a friend who decided that she was done dipping candles, so she gave me her candle dipping gear. And you just go back and forth like that. If you're doing this with a hot pot like this, you should make sure that you're doing it as a double boiler and not that you have the wax directly in the pan. Right now this pan here is filled with hot water, and I've got the wax sitting in a little tray there. And the reason for that is because if you heat the wax up directly, you run the chance of lighting it on fire, and that would not be fun. And so once you've got a bunch dipped like that, then you kind of run around it with your fingers and you form it. And you just kind of give it a light pinch. It is a little bit hot right now, but when it's warm like that, then you can move it, you can push it. Once it cools down, it doesn't push very well. And you don't want to leave it in the hot wax very long, because it will melt the stuff that is on there. So you want to dip it from one into the other. And you can also, nope, there we go. You can also see the depth of the wax in the pan. And so now, there we go. So there's a smaller opening. It will take a lot less wax for a smaller piece of pipe than a bigger piece of pipe. And if you just alternate between them like that, I kind of think this squared off end doesn't look as nice as I would like it to, so maybe if the wax pot were a little bit deeper, then that would be good. Also, I've noticed that if you're not careful, you can have the end of it be pretty close to the end of the PVC, which I don't think looks very nice. And so there's that. That's probably a decent size opening. It's not the prettiest thing, although some of that could probably be adjusted. And then let's see what it sounds like. So there's a whole breathing technique that you can learn, and there's a whole bunch of different tones that you can learn. I think also using this 1 foot segment would allow you to use the right size. This one was obviously too small, but you could use the right size elbow on it, and you could have something that goes off at an angle. If you wanted to put a microphone into it, you could use one of these and then put a little piezo microphone in there. Or I suppose you could also have that as a valve, as a tuning thing, and so then you could change the tone of it, and you can measure the distance from the mouthpiece to the opening to figure out where the distance would be to get different notes, because it's very much a mathematical thing of how the distances relate to the different notes that you might get. So by all means, give it a shot. If you need more wax, drop some more wax in there. Give it a shot. Make some didgeridoo mouthpieces, and then make some didgeridoos, and make some music, and do some fun droning.